Welcome our viewer wherever you are seated and watching the lesson of today. We are going to venture in the book by the name The Arrow of God. This book is written by one of our best African-owned writer by the name of Chinua Achebe. And what Chinua Achebe is trying to tell us is a story that is true replica of what happened in our country, Kenya. As you can remember very fresh in your mind about the history, we have what we call the collaborator, and also we have the resistor, how the African responded to the coming of the European. The same thing that is happening in Kenya here is what we see happening in Nigeria. So the Ezeulu, chief priest of the people of the Umwaru, is the true kind of the custodian of the culture of his people in West Africa. And this story revolves around the people of the Igbo in Nigeria, one of the community in Nigeria, the Negroes in western part of the Africa. And in this story, we are seeing the different development of the themes across the story. And one of the main kind of the custodian, the so-called the Chief Ezeulu, this guy has a very rich theme, because to me I see this man is one of the main character in the story. So from the story of the Nzeulu, we see the themes revolving about the leadership, about the conflict, about the education, about the issues to do with the family. And most importantly, where you are seated, if you look at the Nzeulu, we have other minor character also sharing the same script, like the Ekwebwe, a good friend to the Nzeulu. We see people like the antagonist and also the protagonist, like the Nwaka, the eloquent, and also some kind of the African people within there is kind of the ruling parameters. And one of the most important things you need to understand about the Ezeulu is that the picture of a family is coming very clear. And the picture of the family is coming very clear as a theme, in a way that not only the Ezeulu is a married man, this man is a polygamist by the extension. And what do we see about this? We see the way this man is a person married to three women. One of them is deceased. Their Kweke is a deceased, dying during the childbirth, when giving birth to his first daughter, Adesi. You see that the Akweke is dying during the birth or during the delivery. And then it's now remaining with the two wives, Matefi and Ukoe. All this kind of the wife is having at the moment. We see the rivalry in his family. And then one of the most important things that we cannot give the cold shoulder is that we see the tradition also coming at the beginning of the story. We see the reception of the new moon. And the reception of the new moon led to the argument between the Matefi and Ukoe. These women were reasoning and arguing about the appearance of the moon. To them, they had the divergent opinion. And one of the most important things you need to understand about that is that the role of the chief priest, upon seeing the moon, the chief priest, the Ezeulu, took the sacred yam, roast it, and eat it alone. And then at the other time we see that the argument between the Matefi and Ukoe led to the argument among the minor, the children that is. They're even questioning themselves that is the moon killing people? Those are the questions the children were asking themselves about the argument that ensued between the two. And apart from that, in the Nzulu family, we see he had children. Those children are the minor character, and each and every child has a story to be talked about. Look at the Edogo. This was the first and the eldest son to the Zulu. Through Edogo, we see the predicaments. We see the predicament about this a person who has lost the firstborn. He lost the firstborn, and the secondborn was also ailing. So we see Edogo as a person devastated. His experience was quite detrimental, in a way that he even questioned himself that whether the gods has left him for the dogs. And apart from that, from Edogo, we also see the culture, the theme of the artistry, This guy was somebody very creative. He could carve the deity head. That brought a lot of the argument. People are even saying that he was doing something quite God forbid, in a way that he's carving the head of the deity in the name of the sculptor. So the creativity in a dogo is being highlighted in that angle. And apart from that, we can see Edogo as the voice of the reasoning. And the main reason why you can see that Edogo is a voice of the reasoning is because you can remember when he was compelled by the dad that according to the Ezeulu was saying that during the time when Edogo was hidden somewhere, carving the head of the deity, he had Anosi, the village gossip, who was talking about bad-mouthing the family, the name of the family. Then, according to the version of Ezeulu, he thought that Edogo would have attacked the people talking ill about their family, a point that Edogo refuted and refused to yield. Then, apart from that, we are also seeing some kind of brewing tension in the Ezeulu family. And this kind of the brewing tension in the Ezeulu family is brought about by the issues to do with what we call the apparent heir of the throne upon the succession. And apart from that, who was the favorite of the Zulu in the future leadership of the Umaru? We see the gospel truth about this issue. The leadership is soon being given to the Nwaka, the youngest. And this we get from the argument and from the discussion they had with his friend Akwebwe, that according to the Nzeulu, he was saying that the leadership of the Mwaru would be soon be given and inherited to the Nwaka, the youngest, appointed. This kind of the point led to the gray areas. And we could see that the Edogo wasn't happy with the same. And apart from that, we are seeing the Ezolu as a leader. And a leader of the Umwaru. And apart from being a leader, we see the Nzeulu as a leader to his family. And apart from that, we see Nzeulu as a person, encyclopedia of the wisdom. Look at what happened when the Nwaka mobilized the community. That the Nwaka, the eloquent, and the chief priest of the Edimili, Ezidemili, these two people were of the different opinion. They thought that the land dispute between the Umwaru and the Okperi was supposed to be tackled by an eye for an eye. That they were preempting that the two communities could engage in war to solve the tussle between the two. And here we come and we see that the voice of Nzeulu was the voice of the reasoning. He refuted and he refused blatantly. But because of the tongue of the Nwaka, the eloquent, he convinced the village and paraded them against the Nzeulu advice. And you can see that when you look at the character of the Nwaka, to me, he was a puppet. He was used by the chief of the Edemile to humiliate the leadership of the Nzeulu. And we see that he mobilized people actually, and people danced to his tune. They sent the war emissary to the Okperi, and you can remember what happened. This kind of the war, people lost life. People like the Akukalia lost life. They engaged with the Ebo, and the war ensued. And the war tension between the Ebo and Akukalia was ensued because of the abuse. You remember that Akukalia abused the Ebo, and the Ebo Akukalia destroyed the Ikenga. What's the Ikenga? Ikenga in their tradition and culture, it's a symbol of the men power and men prestige. And then after destroying the Ikenga of Ebo retaliated by killing the Akukalia. And there's something that happened in that line that really, what made the killing to ensue? The killing ensued because they were sent to go to the emissary in war at the Okperi. And then apart from that, are still in the Nzulu. Through the Nzulu, we are seeing the culture that is in conflict. The culture of the people of the Mwaru. One, we see the people who are worshipping their god, the Ulu. That's a culture. Number two, we see the culture of the people who believed in the traditional aspect of the view. Look at what happened in the Nzulu family during the marriage ceremony of the Obika. Okwata was escorted by the group of young ladies and plus the mother. Sacrifices were done at night. The sacrifices were buried by the roadside at the junction. All this portrays the true rich culture of the people of the Igbo. And apart from that, these people, by the extension, we are told that they believe in the second burial. People like the Ogubwefi Amalu was given the second burial, and actually that is what led to the death of the Obika when Obika was carrying Ogubasu Lobodo. Ogubasu Lobodo was the instrument carried during the second burial. At the end of the story, you will reveal the death of Obika. It was caused by the carrying of that document, that kind of the instrument of the power. We call it the Ogbasu Lobodo. And then apart from that, culture is also seen in these people, whereby these people, they depend on a virginity. They cherish the virginity. And where can we see that? You can see that when Okwata was married, that night, the whole night, from the dawn to dusk, these people were confirming whether the Okwata was purely virgin. They were going against that. You can remember that the Okwata had engaged with Obiora, some kind of the issues of intimacy in the past. So people, even Okwata herself, she was quite questionable, and she was even actually worried whether she is virgin or not. And then apart from that, Ogbaje Omenyi, this lady was quite laughable. She was sent to her people to go and shave her private parts. All these are what we call laughable, but they are part of the culture. And apart from that, these people believe in witchcraft, the culture of the witchcraft, whereby you can see the eminent herbalists like the Aghadika from the Ananto. You can see people like the herbalists like the Nodika. Nodika went to the Amalu. When Obwefi Amalu was sick, they believed in superstition. There's a theme of the superstition there, that on his way from the farm, he was attacked by the evil spirit. So to them, they were using the guns in the Amalu's compound to scare the evil spirit from the Amalu. This to the Enzeulu and Akwebwe, his friends, it was laughable. And indeed, Akwebwe and Enzeulu recommended and they prescribed that Nodike was literally doing nothing. And they even prescribed that they ought to have gone to Agadike in the Ananto village to get for the proper renowned herbalist. And apart from that, what do you see in the Matefi? And what do you see in the Ugoe? These were the two sworn enemies. Despite the fact that they were living in one homestead, there's no love lost between the two. And what do you see? I see the argument between the two. Most of the time, and again, they were arguing. But remember, the heart of the Nzeulu was belonging to Egoe, owing to the fact that we know that this lady was one of the eminent good cook. She was good cook, and she knew that the only way to the man's heart was his stomach. And this is exactly what the lady was doing. She was a good cook, she was very submissive, but the opposite could be seen to the Matefi. Matefi was a true opposite of the Ugoe. And when you look at the family of the sibling, look at what's happening on Obika. What kind of the culture, what kind of the theme can be rotating around Obika? One of the things you need to know, my brethren, is that Obika is somebody representing the drunkardness. And Obika, together with this friend called the Ofoeudu, these two people were the group that represent the community of a don't care attitude. They are mostly submerged into the deep sea of the drunkardness. And apart from that, what you see in the family of Ezeulu again, I see a family whereby a family only united during the times of problem. You can remember they were united when Obika was whipped by the right. They were united and they championed against, all of them paraded behind the Obika to defend one of their own. And then apart from that, what do you see about the Ezeulu's family? It is through the Ezeulu family when we see the coming of another family, introduction of Akwebwe. Akwebwe family is also, we are told that, is also a family of the polygamist, of the three wives. And Akwebwe is remembered to be somebody very industrious. And Akwebwe is also remembered to be somebody carried by the tradition and adamant to change. And together, just as a friend, Akwebwe is also a male chauvinist. We can see the chauvinism in Akwebwe because these are the people who will never take the pieces of the advice given to them by their wife. You can remember Ezeulu defied the advice given to him by the Matefi against the old odd when he sent the Oduche to the white men education. This brought rather the confusion in the Umwaru, and people were divided against the protagonist and the antagonist. It brought the division. Some people were blaming Ezeulu for having subscribed to the tradition of the white. And some people also, later we see the change. There's a theme of change, but later, education soon swept the whole community. And people subscribed to the new culture. They went to the same culture and they accepted the Western education. And apart from that, it is through this that we see the new culture about the Nzelu. We see the new culture of the religion. That according to the appearance of the Church Missionary Society, CMS Church in the Mwaru, we see the conversion. People are accepting the Christianity. And people, all and sundry, were even, actually they were surprised to see that Oduche is going to accept the Christianity, Oduche is going to accept education. All these were done through somebody who was supposed to be the custodian of the culture. Then apart from that, we see what? Education we see from the Oduche, we see the Christianity coming, inroads of the Christianity coming to the people. And apart from that, what we see to the Ekwebwe friend back, we see a dedicated man, and we see a person working tediously in his farm. After the end of the pumpkin festival, we are given the visitation. And Ezeulu is going to visit his good friend Ekwebwe. And upon reaching to his home, we actually see the two people engage in a discussion, a very friendly discussion. And also we see them breaking the kola nut. And then this nut in a tradition is a symbol of the hospitality. And then apart from that, we see the Ezeulu refusing to break the nut and proclaiming that according to their tradition, breaking the nut, the first nut on a visitation, is the role of the host. That's the culture. And apart from that, we see that Ezeulu is surprised with the harvest he's seeing in his friend. The Sidiam were very bounty. So these people had a bountiful harvest out of the sheer hard work. Then apart from that, what do we see? We see the colonization. Colonization is making inroads in Okperi as the headquarters. And through the colonization, we see the Winterburton as the engineer of the process. And the Winterburton, remember Makiu, he wasn't the overall. The overall of the leadership of the Umwaru was bestowed on HH, his honor, the lieutenant governor. This was the overall ruler about the issues pertaining to the administration in the Umwaru. And then we are told that the British headquarters not only had the headquarters at the Umwaru, they were also having the leadership. And actually, what we see in Umwaru, to me, you can see it happening in Kikuyu land during the leadership of people like the Karuri Wagakure of Muranga. Exactly what happened there. During the leadership of the Wayaki Wainga of Dagoretti, exactly what's happening there. We see the Robert. Who is the Robert? Robert is a white man. Actually, this man by the extension is a superintendent of the police. And we see somebody by the name the Wade. Wade is a superintendent of the prison. And we also see somebody by the name the Right. Right is the public officer. All these are painting a clear picture of the colonial activity in the Umwaru. And by extension, we may talk about the road officers.
road overseers. We can talk about the people like the Macmillan. Remember, the John Macmillan is a minor character that we need to look into depth. This man was the predecessor of the clerk. And after his death in Africa, he died owing to the cerebral malaria. Then he was succeeded, by somebody by the name the clerk. But through the clerk and through the entire administration of the British, we can see there are more things revolving around them, like the infidelity and immorality. Immorality, that they say that one of the common denominator among the colonialists, the white, was that these people were immoral, with the exception of who? With the exception of the Winterbourne. We're told that Winterbourne was only the one quite upright morally. But remember, the writer is giving us a contrast. And what's the contrast there? That Winterbourne was moral. But what about his wife? His wife was the opposite. While on the emissary to the Cameroon, we are revealing that there was a British tussle between the Germany in Cameroon. So Winterbourne was one of the people sent actually to the Cameroon, to go and face the Germany in Cameroon. But while he was away, his wife was making the bountiful harvest of immorality back at home. She ventured immorality that even led to the divorce. Later, the family was scattered. And by the time we are writing the book, we are seeing the book, we are told that Winterbourne was languishing in loneliness and desperation, caused by the problem, caused by the broken family. And apart from that, we are told that we see the issues of the extortionists. And how is the issues of the extortionists coming in this area? That we also see that James Ikedi, one of our own, the African, after being appointed by the Winterbourne as one of the chosen best, he was educated actually, he changed to be the vampire. He changed to be the extortionist. Why do we call him the vampire? This was a true representation of the man-eat-man society, African turning against the African. And even they turned to be extortionist, corrupt, together with the road overseers, together with the right. These people were even intimidating African with the demolition if they don't pay the bribe. So all these are the iniquities in Africa, in our leaders. They were even going to a point whereby they were saying that if you don't pay the bribe, your house will be demolished. That was the voice of the road overseers. If you don't dance to what we want, you will be demolished. That was the voice of the right. And by extension, John Ikedi was now very brutish in the same length. What do we see about the culture of the conflict? The conflict can be, in my opinion, the conflict in this story can be given the two divisions: the personal conflict, the family conflict, and the cultural conflict. To begin with the first one, that is quite outstanding. We see the cultural conflict between the white and the black African. African, we are told that they have their own bona fide culture. And the European themselves, they have their own bona fide culture. How is it coming out in the story? The white is a culture associated with party after party, party after party. And then again, the white are associated with culture of timekeeping. The white are associated with culture of prestige. What about the white? The black? The black are associated with the culture of their tradition. They believe in the past, the way they are black. And in a case whereby you want to indulge and soil the reputation of their culture, you will be nothing but remain to be their enemies. Culture of the witchcrafty, culture of the herbalist, culture of the second burial, culture of the adherence to the virginity, culture to do with what we call the worshipping of the moon. The new moon is being worshipped like the goddess. Culture of the sacrifice, culture of there are a lot of the culture actually in African continent. We are going to see the culture A against the culture B. And apart from that, we also see the conflict or the feud between the people themselves. Example, The culture, we see the conflict about the good country and Unachuku. The culture about the sacred python. That according to them, if at all one happened to kill the python, the sacred python, he could give it a befitting burial equivalent to the burial of the adult, according to the Nigerian community. Another culture, we see the conflict between who? The conflict between people of the Umwaru initially and the Nzulu, their chief priest. At the beginning, people had the different opinion about whether to go to the modern culture or whether not to go. So they had the cultural conflict about the same. Another one, we see the conflict at a family level, whereby the conflict between the Zulu family, whereby all the female folks gang against the Matafi. There's a conflict there. Another conflict between European themselves. One, conflict between the Britain and the Germany in Cameroon. Another one, conflict between the British leaders themselves. This led to what we call the discrimination. Conflict between the Winterbotham and the Watkinson. Watkinson was the proposed upward mobility given to him, promotion, at the expense of leaving the Winterbotham. Winterbotham wasn't amused and he wasn't happy with that. Because of that, we see the conflict between the two. And then conflict between the Winterbotham and this Lieutenant General. How can you work with somebody, then you work for years on end, then come to the promotion or the upward mobility, they call it. Then we see mapendeleo. So this led to the what we call the feud between the junior and the senior. Another kind of the conflict we see, the conflict between at a family level, conflict between Akweke and her husband. She was sent back to her people, you can remember. Conflict between, really, what made Akweke to be sent back to her people? She was sent because her husband took her her cock, and used in sacrifice. Just imagine. And then she went back to her people because of that. Quite laughable. And also, just in nature of the African, by the way, but quite laughable. Another one, the conflict between which people? Conflict between the two groups. There are two groups that were assigned to go and supply the labor in roadside in the Umwaru. The first group led by the Unachuku, and the second group led by the Obika and Ofweudu. The following morning, Obieka and Ofeudu overslept. They went to the site when it was now late. This culminated to his whipping. He was whipped because of that, going to the job late. And then what led to the problem? The problem rose because the two groups could not work in the same day. Two age groups were the sworn enemy. So there's no way they could work in the same day. So they were separated on a parallel day. That's a conflict as a kind of the theme in that kind of the story. Then apart from that, where do we see the conflict? We see the conflict between the Ebo and the Akukalia. The Ebo is going to Akukalia. And what's happening here? That the Ebo is abusing Akukalia as the castrated bull. Just imagine. Because of his impotence. Then at the same time, Akukalia is responding by breaking his ikenga. The feud and conflict is painted there. This led to the death of the latter. He was killed because of that. Another kind of the conflict. The conflict between people of Umwaru about whether to go for the war or not to go for the war. That's a conflict. They wanted to go for the war. Some of them never wanted to go for the war. But then, I know you know the person who won the argument. Then Ezelu was left alone. They went for the war. Then Calamity soon attacked them. They were killed. People were killed. Then another one here. We see the culture of the stereotypes. The stereotypes culture is coming very clear here. This is the belief in issues to do with supernatural powers. And where do you see the stereotypes to them? The beginning of the story is the onset and the genesis of the stereotype. People who believe in the appearance of the moon. That's a stereotype. That it depends with the appearance of the moon, dictates a lot. Hiyo ni stereotype. Stereotype ya pili is about what we call the issues to do with the witchcraft. Ati Amalu on his way from the farm, attacked by the evil spirit. That's a stereotype. Number 3, we see the stereotype about these people even believe in rainmaking. That there's some people who are professional and expert in that. They can make the rain. That's a stereotype. Another one, when somebody is sick, the evil spirit can be sent away from you using a mere gunshot. That's a stereotype. Another stereotype is about what? A stereotype about, you can talk about hanging the charm. That when Obuefu Amalu was sick, in his house was the bamboo bed, lying desperately, breathing his last breath. Hanging the charm was the option Nwadike was having. He hung the charm around his house. And apart from that, he also shoot the gun, not once, not twice, in the name of scaring the evil. That is a stereotype to me. Again, apart from that again, these people also believed in burying the sacrifice, that you take the cock, you bury. You take the cock, you bury. The first time the bride joined the family, you must do the sacrifice at night. Those are the stereotypes in the story. Then apart from that, what do we see as a kind of what we call the theme here? I see the theme of the issues of the immorality. I think I've talked about the theme of immorality. You can talk theme of immorality. Talk about the two issues here. Talk about the Winterburton's wife, promiscuous when she was alone. Then talk about the issues to do with the right, beating the African men, beating them, that is, and then beating the African men and also sleeping with their wife. That is a quite element of the clear symbol of the morality. But not only the right, we are told that also other British leadership were also following the suit. Otherwise, in our next lesson tomorrow, we will talk about the character and their attribute in the story in our next lesson tomorrow, and also stylistic device, probably the lesson after tomorrow. And I wish you the best endeavor where you are. Stay safe, stay free, and also most importantly, let us have a very interactive lesson. You can ask questions. Actually, you can also discuss together, because together we walk far and wide. Have a good day. Thank you.